All right, welcome. Today, we're going to get into the fascinating story of Malaysian land law. And we're going to solve a real puzzle. How did a system that was originally designed to keep track of ships on the ocean end up becoming the very foundation of how we own land? Let's jump in. I want you to really think about this for a second. Right now, if you had to, how could you prove, with 100% certainty that the ground your house is on actually belongs to you? It sounds like a pretty basic question, but the answer is incredibly important. And for a very, very long time in Malaysia, that question just didn't have a clear answer. And that lack of clarity, well, it wasn't just an inconvenience. It led to bitter disputes, people losing their homes, and just this constant, nagging uncertainty for so many. So before we can appreciate the brilliant solution, we've got to get our heads around just how messy the problem was. See, before the modern system we have today, land law in Malaysia wasn't really one thing. It was a chaotic jumble of competing traditions and rules. Just try to imagine buying property today, and your lawyer tells you, okay, we need to check 4 different conflicting legal systems. That's literally what it was like. You had local Malay customary laws, which were different everywhere you went. Then you had English common law layered on top, a super fragile deed system, and then these various charters of justice trying to make sense of it all. Yeah, to put it mildly, it was a total mess. And get this, one of the most fascinating parts of the old way of doing things was this concept from Malay customary law. Your right to a piece of land was proven by what you did with it. You could take so-called dead land, and by clearing it and planting crops, you brought it to life. You made it living land. And that act, that was your proof of ownership. It's a really intuitive idea, but it depends entirely on physical signs, not some central record. On top of that, you had the English deeds system. Picture your ownership like a long paper chain stretching back through every single person who ever owned the property before you. Now, what happens if just one of those paper links, a single document from 80 years ago, was forged or just got lost? Your entire claim, your whole chain, could just fall apart. It was unbelievably fragile. So you can see this whole thing was just begging for a fix. And the solution? Well, it came from a place you would never, ever expect: the high seas. And this guy right here, this is kind of the hero of our story. His name is Sir Robert Torrens. Back in the mid-1800s, he was looking at this same land ownership chaos over in South Australia, and he came up with a truly revolutionary idea. So where'd he get this incredible idea? Not from studying property law, but from his day job. See, Torrens wasn't some stuffy lawyer. He was the collector of customs. He spent his days managing the ownership of huge merchant ships, and that process, it turned out, was amazingly simple and secure. He was looking at this British law, the Merchant Shipping Act. It created one central, government-run register for all ships. It was dead simple. If you wanted to know who owned a ship, you just looked it up. One ship, one entry on the register, one definitive owner. And the state guaranteed it. That's when the light bulb went off for Torrens. He thought, wait a minute. Why on earth can't we do this for land? And that single question, that why not, it changed absolutely everything. It led to a whole new system built on one core principle. The register is everything. This slide just lays out the shift so perfectly. Under the old system, ownership passed when you got the stack of documents. Under the Torrens system, nothing is final until your name is officially on that register. You don't have to investigate 100 years of history anymore because the state guarantees the title as it is right now. Registration goes from being this optional extra step to being the only thing that actually matters. It's everything. Okay, and this leads to the system's superpower. It's called indefeasibility of title. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but the idea behind it is actually simple and incredibly powerful. It means that once your name is on that register as the owner, your title is basically ironclad. The government itself is warranting that you are the true owner, and your claim can't be defeated by some old rival claim from the past, except in really rare cases like fraud. So this awesome new system eventually makes its way to Malaysia, and it brings all that clarity we were talking about. But what does it actually mean for a landowner today? Well, it's this really interesting trade-off, a balance between your rights and the ultimate power of the state. On one hand, once you're on that register, you get this whole bundle of really powerful rights. You get to exclusively use and enjoy your land, you own the airspace above it, you have a right to support from neighboring land, and you can lease it out or mortgage it. These are your rights. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right?
This is a big one. That ownership isn't absolute, not by a long shot. The state still owns all the minerals and rock under your land. The state can, if it needs to, take your land for a public purpose, like building a highway, as long as it compensates you. And if you don't pay your land rent or you break the rules of your title, the state can take the land back completely. So this whole system, all the rights, the state's powers, the whole Torrens framework, it was all pulled together and locked in for Malaysia with one huge piece of legislation, the National Land Code of 1965. This was the moment that finally swept away that old, messy patchwork of laws and created one uniform system for everybody.
Okay, so we've gone through all this history, all these different systems. What's the big takeaway? What's the one word it all boils down to?
It's all about certainty. That's the bottom line. The absolute genius of Robert Torrens' idea was swapping out that fragile, complicated chain of paper for one single source of truth backed by the government. It took land ownership from being a source of deep anxiety and turned it into a source of real security. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on, doesn't it? The state gives you this incredible guarantee for your property, which is the ultimate protection, but in return for that guarantee, the state sets all the rules and holds the ultimate power. So, is that state guarantee the best possible protection for private property, or is it actually the ultimate limit on it? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.